Hello, everybody. It is Professor Rocco, ya boy, here, ready to go and help you with another lesson for our Age of Sigmar 101 series. In today's class, we will talk about how to set up your first game of Age of Sigmar in matched play. So, right, we're skipping over open and narrative play because most people want to learn about matched play, so here we are. Now, we've talked about the books you need. You remember the rules, your army book, general's handbook, a campaign book if you're playing out of that. And still hold on to those. And we've talked about your army list and how to make one, right? So now what you need to actually play your first game, it's a table, it's your models, it's dice, the measuring tape, and an opponent generally. It's it could be a one player game, a little boring. You need someone to play against. And this is again for even if you don't have friends, you go into a store for a pickup game, this is how you do it. So first we're gonna make some assumptions for the class here, because I believe in you, class. First, you're gonna assume that you and your opponent have exchanged lists, and you've already talked them out, because that is proper gaming etiquette for us. As we talk, we go over a list, see how many points the other guy or gal is bringing, if there's triumphs, how many drops there are. We already had that lesson for why we do all that in list building, but so we already passed that. And now we've got our general's handbook here in order to go and pick some scenarios out. And I'm also going to assume that we're not at a tournament, because when you go to a tournament or an event, even a narrative event, what ends up happening is they will generally either pre-pick the scenarios or pick them during the day, and you have no part in that. So that's at the mercy of the tournament organizer. And then this is also going to be specifically for 1,000 points. Now, a lot of the game is actually balanced around 2,000 point games, and the scenarios are made to reflect that. And we are not using the meeting engagement style scenarios because no one plays that game mode. It's fun, but that's not the focus of this video in particular. So we will be playing a modified version of shifting objectives that comes off of page 83 of the General's Handbook 2020 for this demonstration. And we will also be doing this demonstration in TTS. Yep, that's right. Here we are. This is our table. This is our gaming board. Now I'm going to zoom in here a little bit on the shifting objectives itself while we just give you the high level overview here. So traditionally, this is played with three objectives. It's one scenario, one battle plan there. Three objectives are scattered throughout the table in a big line in the middle. And they have varying point costs. You roll at the beginning of the battle round to see which one's more important. That one's worth 2. The other ones are worth 1. There's some conditions where you can score bonus points, like if you grab it with a battle line unit and hold on to it, more importantly. And we've got these weird little deployments here of these rectangles. And even better, that is between battle rounds, you roll to see which objective is important. That's the important part. That's what makes it better, because this scenario is so random. I love it for playing against new people, or new people to me, because that little bit of randomness kind of takes the sting out of a loss if it's going bad for one side, because you can't control where the D3 goes. And for what we're going to be doing, I'm going to zoom out again, is we are going to be playing on my recommended table size for 1,000 points, the 4 foot by 4 foot table. So we're going to ignore this whole third where that objective is, and we have our two objectives placed. And what we do is, between battle rounds, we'd roll a dice. On a 1, 2, 3, the one on my left is important. It gets the Aether Quartz. The other one is worth 1 point. And again, we would go around with that. So first things first, we've picked our battle plan. Now you could do this from rolling one of the tables or charts in the General's Handbook. You could just say, hey, bud, I want to play this battle plan, and you pick it. Nice and easy, done. You set up the objectives. That's important because in the General's Handbook for match play, it's set up in a way that the terrain isn't on an objective. There's actually a whole bunch of things, like 3 inches away from that, 3 inches from the edge of the table, because and the objectives in this case aren't actually the whole circle. It's that red dot. because you measure from the middle of an objective. So imagine that's a well, or this is for a more competitive set. That's why it's the dot. And then you can capture as long as you're within 6 inches from the center of the objective, which is why we have our circles. Sometimes it's 3 inches, which is why this objective marker has two circles, just to make it easier for us. Now, we've got that set up, and then we've got our terrain here. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I've got 5 big pieces of terrain. I've got these 2 Bretonian inns here that I like to have on the table to deny some line of sight, because in Age of Sigmar, if someone's playing a shooting army or even has spells from a long range that need line of sight, it's, can your model physically see my model? Any part of your model, can you like look down on the table and look and see where my stuff is? So I like having some of that, especially in a shooting meta. And then I've got 3 pieces of terrain. I've got these black gum woods, and I've got a pool of water here. As you can see, these have pretty big bases on them. And Age of Sigmar has a rule about cover, where if models are like a unit, models are wholly within cover. Like let's take this dice for example. It's wholly within the pool, and it doesn't make a charge move in that turn. I get +1 to my save versus attacks against me. So think like shooting, combat. But if I charge onto it, like let's say this dice charges onto the blue dice, the light blue dice would get a cover save, and my other dice wouldn't because he just ran into the pool of water. So now we've got this set up, and you'll see on some tables it's more of an art than a science. For people who like really competitive games where they don't want the terrain necessarily giving one person an advantage or the other, you go for something kind of like this. And we have rules to give these different things, different scenery rules. We've got the realm rules to add on extra layers of rules. But at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're extra layers. They're for spicing games up when you've been playing your 30, 40, 100th game. Even then, I know people who play 200 plus games in a year, and they're like, yeah, no, I don't use them. Just, they don't fit me. And that's okay. Age of Sigmar, again, this is the base game. The rest of the stuff are add-ons. And if you like them, great. I love them. Not everybody does, and that's okay. And for your first 1,000-point game, we're not going to use them because that's just more rules for you when you need to learn how to play your army and how to play to the scenario. So for this example, we're not using those. And also, if you looked at the thing for shifting objectives, you can see that there's a major victory and a minor victory thing. So a major victory is when you just win straight up on points. You've won so many points your opponent can't catch up. Great. In tournaments, a major victory might score you extra points. Sometimes just getting the win is just getting a win and take your W. All right. If you do need to go to tiebreakers, though, you follow a minor victory. In the 2020 GHB, they have these things called auxiliary objectives, which are shown actually here in TTS with these cards. So like this one is Invader. There are 18 of them total. This is 17 plus this one, to give yourself different victory conditions to break ties. Some people like playing with 1. Some people play up to 3. Whoever finishes the most, gets that minor victory. If it comes down to a draw, that's just a draw. And that's a lot of tiebreakers. You got to get to being a draw, so that's a well-earned draw. So when we try to go to 2K games, what ends up happening is we use the full table, and I like having another 2 to 3 pieces at least of big terrain, big to medium. Then you have like a few scatter things. Maybe you got some small fences or a hill or something, just to fill up the table a bit. Generally, I don't like doing that too much, though. I don't want it to be like a complete like cityscape with little cobblestone streets, because our game's not necessarily meant for that. And if someone's bringing faction terrain and then has no place to put it, like in this example, we're doing a Night Haunt versus Cities of Sigmar force, and currently, as of currently when this is coming out, they don't have faction terrain. So, we're okay with that. But, I don't want my opponent to not be able to play parts of their army that they painted and took and then had to transport like a bajillion Sylvaneth Wildwoods to not get to put any down on the table. And, that's not what we're here for. Even with a more competitive focused mind on this channel, we're still about having fun. And, I just want us to have fun and be good at this game. So we've talked about setting up the objectives. We've got the terrain. We've set it up together to be more fair. Sometimes people set it a bit more askew so that this next part actually has a little more into it. Now, with my teaching assistant Elm here, we'll demonstrate the next bit. So, say hello to Elm's purple hand. Good job, class. So, we're going to do a roll off right now. So, the winner of this roll off is going to have the choice to either be the person to pick sides or drop first. So, when it comes to picking sides, what do I mean? And dropping first, what's going on? So, we're going to roll off right now. Right? So, I'm going to roll a 4. Elm rolled a 2. My goodness, I actually. So, before in previous takes, Elm rolled 6 sixes. This is the first time it's actually worked for me, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I, as the player here, have the option to either choose my side and be player A in the scenario, and then player B gets to start placing stuff down first, or I can defer. I'm going to choose to pick sides, and I'm going to stay on the side I'm on. Again, this is a very even setup. I get no benefit, and more importantly, my army's over here. So I'm going to be a little bit lazy. Even in the virtual realm, it's okay to be a little bit lazy. And we've already talked about our lists. Elm here has 1,000 points in Night Haunt. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drops. I have 6 in my Anvil Guard army. So I'm going to outdrop Elm anyway, even if they take the first drop. So I'm okay with that. So Elm's going to show you that she's going to put the. Elm's my wife, so be gentle, internet. All right, put down the first drop in your deployment zone, because that's the other thing here. Because of the scenario is 1,000 points, I want to make sure we actually have enough room to put all of our stuff. That's where you put it. All right, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not gonna judge. Silently judge. It's okay. So I will respond with my first drop, which is me putting down my first unit, which will actually be all of these lovely, lovely Black Ark Corsairs. Yeah, they mostly landed in place. Can't do that in real life, can you? All right, Elm, next drop. And this is what happens with deployment. We go back and forth until eventually we're both done. All right, Elm is electing to have her Grimghast Reapers in reserve. So there's the other thing, too. Elm is playing an army that has deep striking capabilities. So as I'm doing this, I'm also, in the back of my head, this is more for the master class, but I'll key in. How do I maybe screen out so I don't get jumped and mauled by all the Night Haunt coming up from the dirt? My second drop here is this Fleet Master, who also synergizes with my Black Ark, so I want to make sure he's up front and center here to make sure he can give out all his buffs. Alright, next drop. Okay, more Chain Rasp Horde, a little more Chaff, a little more Anvil here for versus her hammers of the Reapers and the Harridans. Alright. So my third drop is going to be my friend Cal the Charybdis with his acidic blood. Off to the side. Here we're going to make sure I am not over the starting line, because that would be unfortunate. Double take all my stuff. We're good. Elm, next drop. Please. Okay. Harridan's in reserve. Alright. Alright, so now it's like, okay, how am I screening out my backfield? Well, we've got these chariots here, right? I'm going to put them a little more centered. I'm going to start trying to deny space in my backfield here. I know deep striking units have to come 9 inches away from me. So we're denying space up to here. Cal the Charybdis is also denying space. Those are big units. So at this point, I actually have my whole backfield, except for this corner here, screened out, which will end shortly. Elm drop! Fantastic. Guardian of Souls right up there for more buffs. I'm going to have my Sorceress over here in the trees. Well, no, I'm going to have her close, because she's also my adjutant, which is a cities thing. Again, we'll talk more about different synergies and how to deploy smartly in a master's class that'll follow this. But for now, you're getting the basic idea. We keep going. Elm, keep going. And I'll do my last drop, which are these Bleak Swords. That's I'll put the other thing down. This is what's going to make sure that I have all of my heroes and my shooting screened and protected. And I have outdropped Elm City. So now what happens? Alright, so before the battle round starts in this particular scenario, we are going to roll for the important objective. 1, 2, 3 on my left. It stays there. 4, 5, 6 on my right. If it was all three, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a D3 dice by rolling this six-sided one. It's going to stay over here. That's important. And then I get to decide who's going to go first. And I'm actually going to elect Elm to go first. And that is actually going to conclude our class today, because that'll go into the next episode of 101, where we go through going through a battle round. So thank you all for watching. I'm going to go back to full screen real quick. There we go. Hey, look at us. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and come back for the next class. Until then, this is Professor Rocco, ya boy, and class is dismissed.